Disney's been making headlines all throughout, really beyond the theme park realm and into really pop culture, as they announced at D23 a lot of new lands that would be coming to the Disney parks, and more specifically, some of the ones that would be coming to Disney World. But then a few days later, they revealed that one of the lands, being the Cars land, was going to replace an iconic Rivers of America that has direct ties to Walt and is an opening day attraction. And a lot of fans, including myself, were not happy to hear that. But another ride that has a lot of fans' attention is the Monsters Inc. land that was announced that it was going to go into Hollywood Studios, as a lot of fans of the Muppets are concerned that that area of the park may be taken out for this land. But apparently, Disney isn't even really sure where they're going to put Monsters Inc. land. So we have an article here from Blog Miki where we're going to talk about it and give some thoughts. So, hi, I'm Jared with Capture the Magic. And this article here says, report, Imagineers haven't decided where in Hollywood studios to place Monsters Inc. land yet. All right, they're going to say, while there was a lot of solid information and announcements made at Disney's Experience keynote from Chairman Josh D'Amaro at D23, there are still a few lingering questions as well. So thankfully, fans don't have nearly as many questions as they did following the 2022 Expo. But one of the two biggest questions was answered yesterday when Disney revealed that Tom Sawyer Island and the Rivers of America would be replaced by a car-themed attraction. This post-Expo news drop was clearly because of the anticipated fan backlash, but Disney isn't out of the woods yet. Yeah, and that's the thing about that is when they announced that this Cars Land was coming and Villains Land was coming, they didn't stand on stage and say what was going away. They waited until 2 days later to reveal it because they knew it was not going to be popular. And I've felt all along that's just one of the things that just so disingenuous about it because they have known that this is not going to go over well. And instead of, I would say having the fortitude to tell it to people's faces, they waited until they just put out a blog post a couple days later. But I digress. But Disney isn't out of the woods yet. The hottest topic on Diz Twitter right now is where Monsters Inc. land will be placed in Disney's Hollywood studio. It says, where will Monsters Inc. land go? Fan discussion has reached a fever pitch with different factions of fans wondering if their favorite corner of Disney's Hollywood studios will be replaced by the Monsters Inc. land. Perhaps no faction of fans are louder at the moment than the fans of the Muppets franchise. Says we wouldn't bury the lead here. A recent report from the Wrap suggests that Imagineers themselves are still debating on where to place Monsters Inc. land, and the clock is ticking. According to reporter Drew Taylor, a source says that the closure of Muppet Vision was going to be tipped during the Disney Experiences presentation by Chairman Josh D'Amaro, but that there was a last-minute swap. If the Monday morning announcement about Cars-themed attractions replacing Tom Sawyer Island was any indication of Disney wanting to avoid backlash during the keynote presentation, Muppet Vision being pulled from the announcement passes the smell test. Indeed, two seemingly conflicting pieces of concept art were shown during the keynote behind D'Amaro and released on Disney's blog and press site. In the first piece, the concept art below, we can see clearly marks for the Muppet Courtyard theory. And that is true. They had concept art for this, and it clearly was not the same place. They had concept art. And also, there's another report showing that this concept art is old, maybe made in like 2020. So this is an older idea that they just pulled out here, seemingly. A water tower over Sully's shoulder unmistakably matches the current water tower above the Pizza Rizzo restaurant, placing the Monsters Inc. building somewhere in the vicinity of the current Mama Melrose restaurant. The shuttered Studio One building would be located roughly where the Lush Park area is, currently seen in this concept art here, placing Muppet Vision 3D where the corner market is on the right side of the concept art. In the somewhat outdated Google Earth shot below, we can see that there is some room for an expansion behind the current set of facades and buildings, impacting the since-built cast member parking lot behind Mama Melrose, and utilizing current infrastructure at Pizza Rizzo is likely an appetizing thought. Muppet backlash should be damned. With the exception of losing the historically relevant Muppet Vision show, this is really, really good option. I mean, it is true, but I think Disney has shown, you could say the same thing about Rivers of America. They can expand beyond it. They just don't want to. I think that's a lot of this stuff is they just simply, more than likely, they don't want to spend the money that it costs to develop new land versus just replacing existing land. So for context, the building seen in the middle screenshot above is the shuttered Studio One store that is really only open a handful of times per year for special event merchandise releases. It would be an easy demolition in a beautiful, lush courtyard. Pizza Rizzo has an embarrassingly short operating schedule on a daily basis and certainly isn't delivering on the balance sheet like Disney was hoping. Mama Melrose, despite a positively received menu update this year, wouldn't be a great loss either. It's also possible that Disney could find a way to reuse the Muppet Vision warehouse and put the roller coaster there too. A second place of concept art is more nebulous, with fans suggesting that it reveals that Monsters Inc. Land is taking over the vastly underutilized animation courtyard area of the park, with the building setting on the same plot as the current Star Wars launch bay. The city facade to the right of the image below would cover the current Disney Junior Dance Party warehouse, which would likely survive in some capacity due to being connected to the nearby Brown Derby restaurant and housing the park's Club 33 location. And you can see here, this is the thing that struck me. I mean, it's clearly these are two different pieces of concept art. This does look just like the launch bay area. Animation Courtyard will require a lot more demolition, but I'm sure that Muppets fans would bring their own sledgehammers to help with that the preservation of Muppet Vision 3D. As seen in the screenshot below, there is a compelling plot of land if the white-roofed Star Wars launch bay were to be completely demolished. It's possible that a bit of former animation building seen in the upper left image might meet a similar fate for the planned roller coaster attraction. The buildings flanking the existing courtyard include the Little Mermaid Theater to the left and a multifaceted building complex on the right that includes the Brown Derby restaurant, the Disney Junior Club, the Disney Junior Dance Party, Club 33, and backstage buildings currently in use by cast members. That's the thing about this is I feel like it's not going to go probably animation courtyard because behind it is it's a lot of infrastructure for employee break rooms. It's been there since the park was built. Like it would require a lot more demolition and you'd have to relocate a lot of the cast member utilized buildings to other locations. And that would be multi-million dollars to rebuild those buildings versus probably looking at Muppets Courtyard. That's my guess. The construction operation here would be a bit more difficult, but if the noise about the removal of Muppet Vision 3D is loud enough, DiMauro might choose the animation courtyard option instead. If I were to guess right now, I think Disney was, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but maybe they underestimated the amount of backlash they were going to get about the Rivers of America. And now they're looking at this and they're not wanting more backlash, or they're just trying to delay it and act like they don't know where they're going to put it. So perhaps the best news for Disney execs is how easy this coaster will be to place. As seen in our photo below of the Monsters Inc. door-themed roller coaster model, it's a box. A box is a wonderful thing as long as it's hidden and can be placed just about anywhere. Heck, Disney could demolish the Q building in the launch tunnel for Rock and Roller Coaster and put Monsters Inc. Land there too. So they're not going to put it in Rock and Roller Coaster because Rock and Roller Coaster absorbs a good amount of crowds. It's a popular ride. You would just replacing one ride that absorbs crowds for another one. It's going to make way more sense to put it somewhere else. So it's an addition for things to do and not just being in the same spot you were before. So I think for that reason, Rock and Roller Coaster is not going to go anywhere. It might get rethemed, but it's not going to go anywhere. While clarity on the Cars themed takeover of Tom Sawyer Island and the Rivers of America was provided quickly after the expo, the wrap suggests that Imagineers haven't made a final decision on the location of Monsters Inc. Land, but that they only have weeks to decide, with construction slated to begin this year. In support of the Muppets Courtyard theory is recent work on the removal of a facade that has been standing for some 8 years and other backstage work in the area. Of course, the removal of a facade is not exactly a canary in the coal mine, but it's certainly interesting. As for our thoughts, I think that it is certainly possible that the final location for the Monsters Inc. Land has not yet been decided. I think it's clear that the concept art presented shows two separate areas of the park. And they say maybe a third of Rock and Roller Coaster, but I don't think that's the case. That said, I'm not privy to plans. Removing Muppet Vision 3D would be a colossal loss, not only for Disney's Hollywood Studios, but for the storied history of Jim Henson's work with the Walt Disney Company in his final years. That is one thing. So I do like the Muppets. I can't say I go to Muppet Vision 3D all the time, but it was Jim Henson's last production that when he was alive. Like it was the last thing that he did. And it does have a group of people that are very loyal and love the Muppets. So I think if they do get rid of it over here, you're going to see a lot of people very unhappy. But I will say this, I think Disney has proven that really nothing is sacred at this point. I think if they're willing to get rid of Rivers of America and that whole area, I don't really think anything's off the table. I mean, some people are even to the point where saying like, Cinderella's Castle may not be off the table given enough time. So I think Muppets is definitely on the table. If I were to guess, that's probably where they're looking at. But the thing that doesn't make any sense either is Muppet Vision 3D, the theater just went under renovation. They talk about right here that the theater has seen some recent updates, new upholstery, and new projection effects that were just done like months ago. So this also lends to, if they don't know where this is going yet, this all seems such a knee jerk reaction for everything. And all this, obviously, clearly, all of this is a response to Epic Universe and trying to counter what they're doing. And it just seems like I don't understand how you would have this. Again, this is an old idea. Like Monsters Inc. Land is something that was rumored heavily, 8-10 years ago. And for them to pull it out now, the timing of it seems odd. I'm not saying it wouldn't be popular, but for them to not know where it would go, it all seems so, it's almost like at the last minute, they just pull things out and they don't know what to do. Kind of made the argument Villains Land almost seems like that was something that they just threw in at the last second. I know they're saying they've moved dirt on these things, but it just seems like all of this, there's no foresight, there's no vision for what's going on here, that they're still, if this is true and they still don't know where this is going to go. I just find that I don't doubt that it's true. And that's the thing about this. It's not that I don't believe it. In current day Disney, I kind of almost expect it. I'm just more astonished that this is something that is continuing to go on. And it's almost like, and I've been saying this for a while, it seems like everything Disney does, they're trying to in real time get feedback to figure out what's going to make people happy. And when they see, the backlash about Rivers of America, and then obviously people started looking into concept art saying, oh, they're going to get rid of Muppets. And then they're immediately like, oh, well, maybe we hold on a second. Maybe we should put it somewhere else. I think what they end up doing, I think more than likely it does end up taking out Muppets Courtyard. And I think you're going to see a lot of people be very unhappy if that's the case, given they've taken out Rivers of America, or they're going to, and then now they would be taking out Muppet Vision 3D. So while you're getting new lands and things, you're losing beloved areas of parks that people have known and loved for many years, because even though they have tons of space, they, again, Disney World is the size of Manhattan, they operate as if they're not able to expand these areas. And I think really what it comes down to is they don't want to spend the money to do it. But I think Disney's in this mode where they are trying to make every part of the parks that they have where it can absorb the most people, have the most capacity, and that's all they're really looking at, and really just making the most money. And then again, contrast that to what we're seeing with Epic Universe, talking about like Celestial Park, how that's looking like an entire park with waterfalls and serene things and ambiance. Like they're really bringing the parks back into theme parks. They're putting more trees, and I think they're having much more forethought in really creativity in just an idea of how they want their parks to be. That whole entire park has an overarching story element to it as well. And I don't really feel like Disney has that now. I think Disney is just looking at what Universal's doing and they're saying, oh, let's do it here. And they're just becoming Universal Studios in a way. And I don't think that's where Disney's strength lies. I think Disney's strength lies in the fact that they have the heritage. They have Walt, that the storied, the Imagineering that they did together and all the stuff that they would build. And instead of leaning into that, they're basically getting rid of all the things that made them different, all the opening day attractions, all these heritage based things from Waltz and people that came before them. They're getting rid of it to try and do something that, oh, this is a new IP, put it here. And instead of the Disney parks being more timeless and all these things, they're just becoming, again, like a version of Universal Studios. And that's not, and again, I love what Universal is doing, but I don't think Disney turning into Universal Studios is going to be good for them in the long run. But I suppose if you're a fan of Muppet Vision 3D, I guess the more noise that you make, your chances of this sticking around are probably much better. So I would make as much noise as you can about it and try and save it, because it seems like maybe that is the thing that's hesitating them from announcing it. Or maybe they're just saying they don't know, and then eventually they're just waiting for this outrage over here about Rivers of America to die down, and then they're going to announce it. But who knows? But I still suppose if you're a fan of Muppet Vision 3D, you still have a chance. So make a bunch of noise and let them know, you wanted to stick around. But that's going to be it for this video. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel, as we have lots of coverage here of Universal Studios, Epic Universe, Disney World, and pop culture news. And let us know in the comments, where do you think Monsters Inc. Land ends up going? And until next time, we will see you in the parks.